So how do you take a glossy glaze and turn it into a matte glaze? Hello, welcome back. So in the last video we talked a little bit about Glazy and inputting a glaze recipe into it and looking at the silica and alumina levels and looking at the stall chart. And towards the end we talked a little bit about Glazy and open an account. If you haven't seen that video yet, you can click on this link here and watch it. And I recommend also going back a few videos if you've not seen any of them, because I go into quite a lot of detail about silicon and alumina levels and how it affects the glaze. Now what we're going to do today is we're going to start inputting our recipes into Glazy so we can start to tweak it. And Glazy basically gives us a nice visual representation of what's inside the glaze. We're going to just duplicate the glossy glaze, and then I'm going to show you how to edit the actual silica and alumina levels to push it more towards a matte glaze. And the other thing we're going to do, we're going to switch the whiting with dolomite. So we're basically going to switch it from a calcium-based alkaline earth flux to more of a magnesium alkaline earth flux. So it's basically the same recipe, we're just switching a whiting with dolomite, and we're going to just tweak the silica and alumina levels. And just a quick note, today we're going to do a magnesium matte. You can still do a calcium matte with whiting. It's just I prefer magnesium matte, and maybe it's something you can experiment with at some point. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start looking at a line blend. So we're going to do a blend from the glossy glaze to the matte glaze, and I'll talk to you about that. I'll be using my software, but I'll also show you a manual way to do it, really simple way to do it. And then at the end I'm going to show you the results from the actual recipes we've developed over the last couple of weeks. So let's go into Glazy now and I'll go into a bit more detail. So this is the recipe we did last week. It's a simple cone 10 base, 40, 30, 20, 10. There's 40% feldspar, 30% silica, 20% whiting and 10% EPK with a little bit of bentonite for suspension. The alkaline earth and alkaline metals are nicely balanced. And if you look at the silica levels, it's at 9, telling us it's going to be quite a glossy glaze because it's quite a high ratio of silica to alumina. And what we're aiming to do is going to drop that 9 down towards 5, and that means there's going to be more alumina. So increasing the matte alumina will push it more towards the matte area on the stall chart, but don't forget we also need to switch the whiting, which is a calcium flux, to a magnesium flux, which is dolomite. So what we need to do now is duplicate the original glossy glaze recipe we did last week. So if you just hit copy and then go back to my studio, you should see it there. Once you see it, tap on a name and we'll go back into it, but we need to edit the actual name because it has copy next to it. So if you go down and go edit information, you'll be able to change it to whatever you want. I'm just going to remove the copy and add matte to it, and I'm going to just keep the 40, 30, 20, 10 for now. So head to the bottom and don't forget to save this out, and you should see it updated now in my studio. So what we're going to do first, we're going to take the silica levels and drop them down, but also increase the amount of alumina. So the ratio of alumina and silica is going to change from 9 down to about 5. As I said in the previous lesson, I've talked about this, about the different levels. So glossy glazes are normally up towards 6, 7, 8 plus, and matte glazes are normally a bit lower because they've got more alumina, so the ratio is a bit lower. So that's one of the first things we're going to do. In the second, we're going to just simply switch the whiting with dolomite. So whiting is a calcium alkaline earth, and we're going to switch it to dolomite, which is a magnesium alkaline earth. Now the one thing about magnesium as an alkaline earth is it creates crystals in the glaze, especially when you slow cool it. So what we're going to do, we're going to switch the calcium to magnesium, and that's going to really help promote these crystals in the glaze. And once we've done that, it should start to push it over towards the matte area of the stall chart. So let's go back to Glazy now and I'll show you how I mess around with the figures to get us more towards that kind of matte glaze. So back in the recipe now, let's first look at the actual stall chart, which I talked about in the last lesson. So if you hit calculator and enlarge it a little bit, you'll see where the point is on the stall chart. Again, it's in the center, which is going to give you a nice glossy glaze, and we're going to try and push it over to this area, which is going to be more of a matte glaze. So to edit these inputs, we need to head over to the right and hit calculator. And this enables us now to edit everything in the recipe. So for starters, let's switch whiting with dolomite. So if you hit the little cross and remove it and do a search for dolomite, it should come up in the drop down list. We'll keep this at around about 20% for now. And don't forget to check below, you'll always see the ratios updated when you play around with alkaline earths and metals. So once that's done, we're going to play with the silica and alumina levels. And then we're going to do this by increasing the EPK. Now we're going to push from 10% to 20. And you'll notice the little dot in the stall chart will go up diagonally. It's not just got alumina, but it's also got silica, so it's always going to go up at a diagonal. But at least it's gone up a little bit and we've increased the actual alumina levels. So what we need to do now is reduce the amount of silica. Now our silica is either flint or quartz. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reduce it from 30% down to about 5% for now. And you'll see the little dot go diagonally back to the left hand side. So as you can see now, we've moved from glossy right towards the semi-matte area of the stall chart. And this is where we're aiming to go anyway. So if we look at our silica alumina levels, we're down towards 5, which is quite low. And then if we look at our alkaline metal and alkaline earth levels, we've got a good ratio of alkaline earth and alkaline metal ratio. So we can start tweaking these figures now. What I want to do is just push it a little bit more towards a matte. And the way I'm going to do this is just to increase a little bit more EPK. It's going to push the alumina and push the silica levels a little bit. And as you can see now, it's just gone a little bit towards a matte zone of the stall chart. And this is where we're going to keep it for now. So as mentioned in previous videos, the base always adds up to 100%, and then the additions are normally a small percentage based on the actual base glaze. So as you can see, this does not total to 100%. So if you hit the 100% at the bottom left, it forces all the ingredients to add up to 100%. And then as you can see, the bentonite is still an addition of 2% of that. Now as you can see, it's given me a couple of decimal points, so I'm just going to tidy this up and round it up or down. That's it now, we're at 102%, that's because we've added 2% bentonite, but the actual base recipe adds up to 100% and we got the 2% bentonite. If you check out the silicon alumina ratio, it's down to 4, which is good, and we've got a nice ratio of alkaline earth and alkaline metals. So I'll hit the update button and this will update the recipe. If you're enjoying this video, please like. It just really helps get these videos into the world of YouTube. It just helps the algorithm. So I really appreciate any likes. And please subscribe if you haven't. You'll get notifications when I do upload videos. And if you've got any questions, please comment below. I'll be happy to help where I can. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So now we've got our matte glaze recipe, we're going to make it up and then we're going to start looking at how we can blend from the original glossy glaze to the actual matte glaze. And what we're going to do, we're going to use this software which I've been developing. It's not released yet. When it is released, I'll do a little update here and you can click on the link. And what it's going to do is we can just feed in the glossy glaze and then we can feed in the matte glaze. And what we do with the software is we set how many tests we want. So say if we want, say, 4 tests, from pure gloss to pure matte, it's going to do 4 tests in between that, and then it'll work out how much glaze you need to make up. So if you've got more tests at larger volumes, you're going to need more glaze to start off with. So what we're going to start off quite simple. We're just going to do 4 tests and they're going to be each 100 ml each, and you input that and then it'll tell you how much glaze we need. And once we've got that line test done, we can make up the glaze. We use our test tiles as we said before, like in the video above. So once we fired it, we should see 4 different test tiles, one going from a gradual gloss glaze right the way through to a matte glaze. So we can then look at the line blend and choose which one we particularly like. So maybe we don't want a full matte glaze, we might want maybe a satin sort of semi-matte glaze. We can pick that glaze and we can actually generate a recipe from that. Also with the software, you can go into the glaze calculator and we can actually say, right, I want 25 litres of this, and it'll automatically tell you how much of the raw materials you need, how much water you'll need to make a particular volume of water. So just a quick note, you don't really have to use my software when it will be released. You can just basically get your 2 glazes and do your own mix. So you'll do 100%, 75%, 25% of one glaze and then the opposite on the other side. So you always end up with 100 ml for each test, but you're just doing your own kind of measurements. The only thing the software does, it just gives you a lot more detail about your water content. And when you start doing more complex glazes, you can actually then start to pick which glaze you want and make larger batches of it, and also the triaxial blending section of it where you're working with 3 different types of glazes. It does start getting quite complicated, so the software just makes it a little bit easier. So we're going to go into the glaze software now and I'll show you how to input the 2 recipes, and then we'll make up the glaze and then we're going to fire it and I'm going to show you the results at the end of the video. So this is the line blend section of the actual software. So we've got a glaze recipe 1 and glaze recipe 2 here. and this is where you input the first glaze and the second glaze. So for the first glaze, I'm just basically going to add the original glossy glaze, which is going to be the 40, 30, 20, 10 of feldspar, silica, whiting and EPK. And below that is the target recipe, or just the second recipe, and this is where we're going to add the actual matte glaze. And for the matte glaze, it's the same ingredients apart from whiting, so we're going to just change feldspar to 46%, silica down to 5%, and we're going to switch whiting with dolomite, and it's going to set to 22%, and we're going to set EPK to 27%. Another thing the software keeps an eye on is your water content, and we all look at water as an actual ingredient because that will influence the final glaze. So you can see this defaults as 75%. So I set this at 75% because that's what I use for most of my glazes, but you'll find that some raw materials do absorb more water, so when you actually say add zinc and things like that, it will go a lot thicker and you will have to add a bit more water at the end to get to the right density. And there's a little area in the software where you can actually, when you add more water, you input that and it gives you a final percentage at the end for that particular recipe. So it's really important to keep an eye on water and always keep an eye on your percentage. So this section on the right is basically showing you the breakdown of each glaze, recipe 1 and 2. And this is based on here, which says 4 tests, and each test batch is 100 ml, and all this can be edited. So once you've added recipe 1 and recipe 2 and a number of glaze tests, the calculator actually tells you how much of recipe 1 and recipe 2 you need, and you can start mixing them. So here's a list of materials including raw materials and water, and as you add them for each material you can tick them off so you don't get confused. And at the end of this you're going to have both recipes made up and ready to start blending. So at the bottom of the line blend calculator, you're going to see the next section, which is showing all the actual blend tests going from cup 1 to cup 4. And cup 1 is going to be 100% recipe number 1, and test cup number 4 is going to be 100% recipe 2. And then 2 and 3 is basically a blend from 1 to 4. It also includes all the materials, so you get to know what percentages of, say, silica, whiting and EPK there is in each test cup. And below that is a line blend section, and this gives you all the details of what you need to use in each cup. So test cup 1 you'll see is using 100 ml of recipe 1, test cup 2 is 67 ml of glaze recipe 1 and 33 ml of recipe 2, and so on. Just a quick note about this recipe, you'll notice that it's a base recipe, so it's a clear recipe. I actually add 6% tin oxide to it, so it opacifies it and turns it into a white glaze. It just makes it a lot more clearer to see the matte glaze at the end when we fire it. If you do want to make it a white glaze, just add 10% Zirca packs or 6% tin oxide. So we're going to go in the Glaze Shed now, and we're going to do our line test. Now I've got glaze 1 and glaze 2 already made up, so I've got all my information of what I need to add into cup 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now as you don't have the glaze calculator, I'd keep it a bit more simple and do 5 line tests, so you can divide it with 25% in each one. So let's say if you got 5 cups, then cup number 1 is going to be 100% recipe number 1, and then in cup number 2 you're going to just pour 75 ml in there, and in glaze test number 3 you're going to just put 50%, then 25% and nothing. And then you're going to get your recipe 2 and you're going to put 100% into glaze test number 5, and then you're going to add 75% into glaze cup 4, then 50 into 3 and 25 into 2 and nothing into 1. So you're going to have this perfect blend between the glossy and the matte glaze. As I've got the software, it's a bit more of a complex number, just doing 4, but you can add any number of cups into the glaze software and it'll automatically tell you what recipe 1 and 2 volumes to put in there. So, but let's go in there now and we'll get started to do the line blend test. So we've got recipe 1, which is the glossy glaze on the left, and then we've got the matte glaze, recipe 2 on the right. The matte glaze has got a bit of blue dye in it, so it really stands out. So we're going to pour recipe 1 into the second test cup to 75 ml. And in test cup 3 we're going to put 50 ml. And then test cup 4 we're going to put 25 ml. And then we're going to do the same but backwards. So in test cup 4 we just fill up to the 100 ml, which means it'll have 75 ml of recipe 2 and 25 ml of recipe 1. And then test cup 3 is going to be 50-50. Then test cup 2 is going to be just 25 ml of recipe 2 and 75 ml of recipe 1. So that's basically it. We've got our recipe 1 gloss that then slowly blends from 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, which is our matte. So I'll just get my test tiles now and we'll dip each test tile into the test glaze and then we'll fire them up and let's have a little look at the results. Now for all those cone 6 people, I know this is a cone 10 recipe, but the principles are exactly the same. You're going to just take your cone 6 recipe, you can use the one I gave you in the last couple of videos, and you can just reduce the amount of silica and increase the amount of alumina. And then you just switch your whiting for dolomite and try and push that little dot in glazy more towards the semi-matte or the matte area. And there is a recipe for cone 6 matte on my website, so if you head to my website with the link below, and if you go into resources, you'll be able to see the cone 6 glaze you can test. And then you can do a simple line test from the glossy to the matte recipe I've given you. I will be doing another video on the cone 6 matte very soon. It's just I don't fire my cone that often to cone 6, so I've got to make sure that I've got lots of stuff to put in the kiln, otherwise it just feels a bit wrong to stick the kiln on just for a couple of test tiles. But there will be a new video coming very soon on cone 6. But for now, why don't you try and take your glossy glaze and see if you can tweak it and just have a go. Like I said, it's exactly the same principles as the cone 10 recipe. Okay, back to the cone 10. So for my test, I just did 4 altogether, going from the glossy to the matte. So this is the first test, which is 100% glossy glaze. And you can see the light reflecting, it's quite glossy, it's got a nice sheen to it. The next one, it just reduces a little bit more satin, doesn't reflect as well. And then the third one, it's more of a semi-matte, it just reflects a little bit, you can see. And then the final one, this is 100% matte glaze, and it's got no sheen to it whatsoever. So this is a true matte glaze 5 to cone 10. So thanks for watching to the end. It's been a quite long video, but it's been a really good example of, you know, how you take an actual glossy glaze and take it to a matte glaze. So we've done quite a lot over the last couple of videos where we've basically swapped the whiting, which is a calcium flux, to more of a magnesium flux, which is a dolomite. And we've also tweaked the silica and alumina levels to get that matte glaze. And again, I must stress it's a true matte glaze and not just an undefined glossy glaze. If you do have a glossy glaze and you find that it goes a bit matte in certain areas of your kiln, it basically means you've undefined it. So the one good thing about this glaze is it's a true matte glaze. It's 5 to cone 10 and it should be a really good durable glaze. So thanks again for watching this. There's going to be plenty more over the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to start looking at colorants and also triaxial blends where we're going to get the same base glaze. And we're going to start combining copper, cobalt and iron to get lots of different colours, and then we can start to create our batches from that. And hopefully I'll get the software up and running at some point. I just want to make sure it's absolutely 100% working before it goes out there. So if you've got any questions, please comment below, please subscribe and please share these videos. It really helps get my videos out there. And again, thanks for all the support and all the questions you've been giving me over the last couple of weeks. There'll be a lot more videos coming up soon. So yeah, thanks again and I'll see you soon.